I'm having a late lunch, and I ordered it. It's decent, but the bread is kind of chewy, and I don't want to have to heat it up again. Plus, I put extra sauce on it, and that wouldn't heat up very well. So I'm just going to have multitask here. Actually, maybe I'll turn this that way until we have viewers. Sunny bringing some viewers, eh? Once we have viewers, we'll get into the topic. Or topics, which I kind of have a rough idea of. The crust is especially chewy. Couldn't have bread that good in a while though. Even though it's chewy, it's good. It's kind of nice crunch. Sometimes you think you have an adequate amount of napkins, but you put an adequate amount of salt on it. Seems like often with like certain pizza or whatever, it's like, oh, I need more because like I just saturated these things with the sauce and stuff. Sorry that I'm not doing anything in this video yet, other than eating. But there's Sunny, and I'm watching to see indication of viewers. I ripped up a bit too. Nicely grilled. But the luckily you did bring home a lot of napkins the other day. Pieces of chicken are a little bit big than I would have liked. And did it say it was grilled? Because the bread's grilled, the chicken I wouldn't say is. I'm trying to vegan watching. Luckily didn't melt that nice in the oven the other day, putting it on the oven. After the fact watching, I hear you, I understand you. I'm even sometimes like you. But I am at times a picky eater. This sandwich is probably the fanciest thing that I've eaten in what feels like a while. I do little desserts. I do frozen meals sometimes, pasta, pizza. Not a lot of snacks, and I hope they didn't charge us for cutlery because I think we got that, even though I didn't ask for it. And we didn't home. Most people have their own forks and stuff. And yeah, so I kind of have a limited, and I'm a picky eater. And I also just don't really have, I don't know. I had a pretty good cooking class in high school with Mr. Hyatt, but I don't really have a lot of cooking skills. I can get creative. You know, it's a matter of affording and having the ingredients and thinking to mix them. When I can, I'm not bad with it. But other times, yeah, it's a bit more of a struggle. So for anybody who sees this after the fact and says, did he just say he's eating chicken? I want to go all vegan with my opinions. I'm not saying they don't matter or that they're not valid. But I don't fully agree, and that's a good thing, I think, because otherwise, yeah, I would have had a harder time. I even sometimes get so bad where it's like, oh, if a restaurant serves this and this, even if I'm not eating it or ordering it, I won't. We had a view briefly there, but like, won't look at the place. But it's so hard. Most places serve meat. Most places serve seafood. You know. So unless you have a really bad allergy, it's silly to try and avoid it. You know. But anywho, I'm gonna wait till we get viewers. I'm just grilling up a little bit of that chicken. There was quite a bit of chicken in just half the sandwich, and I'm going to save the other half for later. The soup didn't have a lot of flavor or broccoli in it, but whatever. It wasn't as good as it sounded. The bread's kind of nice, like I say, other than chewy, but I tried a new place. You know. And actually, it was closer to the amount that we thought. It seems as if they wavered, even though I didn't try to get them to, the taxes or something. Or the government thing. So the dog's being goofy. I guess I'll give him something. So we'll pour them all out, whichever, into the abyss here, into the pile of stuff. It's eventually our address. Okay, got most of them, I think. But that's why I don't like to keep them there. But I like to have them out here in case I want them. Let's put them here then. I'm just wrapping video memory also. But I do want to conserve my energy for when we have somebody here. And at the moment, we don't. So. Yeah, and so essentially, though, I was just saying, if anybody seeing this afterwards and working on a comment, it's like, no, but my opinions about veganism are important, this and that. I get it. I'm not, the thing is we can't stop meat eaters, and, we can't stop things happening to animals, and sometimes I try and look at it, and it's somewhat comforting, as a circle of life, sometimes, It happens with any living being. Even things like plants, and we can't save everything. That's another way to put it. And we can be the strongest advocate towards those things or whatever. Again, we're not miracle workers, though, right? So I guess there's a part of me that figures, well, since that's the case, the place I actually ordered from had the word indulge in its name. And I guess you could say I did that. Although I made myself a nice pasta sauce the other night. Pasta's for dinner. We're low on groceries right now, and it just got to where I thought we're also low on finances. So, if you ever feel that you get great value of these videos, you're welcome to. It's monetized. I don't exactly remember how all that works, but we won't complain if you tried to send us something. But nobody's watching at the moment anyway. I'm almost burning chicken. Not a lot of sauce came out there on the of the sandwich. So it's essentially grilled chicken. Right, so what? What do I want on it? Mustard. I don't know. I feel like I want something on it, but what is it? Even that, it's not just meat, actually, And I've had in the past, when I've had to, black coffee, but I'm not a fan of it. But that's not really what this video is about. I said I was going to conserve my energy till we got viewers, so I should do that, eh? So, ketchup, what's this? This is spicy something. That's probably spicy too. So that's for the other person in the house. I thought, we do actually have, though, all that being said, and it was supposed to come with the garlic aioli. This is not it, and it's almonds, but it is a vegan mayonnaise. Again, not full-on vegan, and it's never been opened, but that's not intentional. But with that being so hard to pop open, you would hope that there's no seal underneath it, but there probably is. So we got a viewer. Hopefully we also have this one. I'm just going to finish it up. Sorry. I'm just finishing up my lunch. And you know, I've been rolling for about 10 minutes, and I think you're the first person to come here. So, so whatever. Okay. Hello. We've got a viewer. I'm just taking the last couple bites of my lunch, and they left. This could have been a cooking video, and every good cook tries their food. I didn't make this. It's not really a cooking video. Just what you want to call grilling chicken. That's how it should have came. That's how it should have came in the sandwich. I won't order from there again. Not hot food. Maybe baked goods. We'll see. Although I got the salmon bun. So. I don't think the radio's that loud, that recognizable. It would be awfully quiet otherwise in here, unless I'm talking. But it's a little bit louder than I thought it was. I don't want Facebook to, or YouTube rather, to get on me about it. Of course, this could be a lot shorter if I just get to it, but I don't want to just get to it. No, just kidding. I'd really rather get to it when there's people here to talk to about the stuff. Hopefully he doesn't finish up that rawhide in that time though, because he can actually sometimes go through them fairly quickly, and it didn't look like the largest one. Those things, they make them in all different sizes. Maybe I will just though, because like I say, otherwise he's going to start being noisy again perhaps, because he likes to try and be involved, and the dog, and it'll just be distracting, and I can't give him something else because that would be giving him too much in a short period of time. So I guess I will kind of talk about what I want to talk about, and then if somebody tunes in, great, otherwise whatever. But because there's lots of videos on YouTube, right? But so this week went from only having plans Monday to having some things to take care of today, Tuesday, to Wednesday having a doctor's appointment. I felt mixed about it, but I feel like I really need to do it. And it's in the morning, so I don't have to wait much into tomorrow. And then Thursday I have a meeting / errand. Hopefully it goes well. I'm feeling a little unsure about that, but again, that's in the morning too. And then Friday I'll rest. Or Friday I might bring Sunny for his nail trim. And then resting mostly, and then I think I see the worker again on Monday. I think I have Jackie on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm not sure, but I mean that's the thing, you never know. Like you can think you do, but sometimes nice little surprises come up, right? So and sometimes other things, but So, and basically, so I really would rather be saying this if we have viewers, but we don't at the moment. And like I said, I don't want this to be too long. I do have something else kind of interesting that I'm doing, actually. I don't know if I should. Oh, we got two viewers. So I'm just talking about some stuff that, and you're the only two here at the moment, but welcome. Some and one that I have coming up, and you can see the title. I'm curious what you think about it before I kind of elaborate on it. So feel free to put comments. And but the viewer went, so whatever. But I'm just gonna make sure live chat, because the other option at the top here, right, may not be visible. Okay. But yeah, for some reason the comments don't show afterwards. Like I didn't go deleting anything. I thought about it the way, not that it was necessarily personal directed at me, thankfully, but I thought about it. But no, they only show live. Although when I've seen some YouTube videos, it still shows here's the live, what happened during the live chat. But when I look back at the other two recent ones, I wasn't seeing that. So maybe it's on Facebook though. Present status hasn't gotten one. But it hasn't been that long. I also, yeah, I'm trying to make a couple things happen. One's going to be at least one time in February. Whatever transpires after that, I don't know. And then the other one's going to be more continual, but it might not start until March. But I'm hoping sooner. So, and other than that, I have been stuck in a rut that I've been struggling to get out of. Stuck in a rut that I can't get out of. And so we have a viewer, and yeah, basically, I don't think the sun's too bright. The location of it is not shining right at me or on my face. So, so yeah, I'm curious what our viewers, and we only have one at the moment, but glad you're here. Again, you know, and it seems like as soon as I mention it, I mean, I guess when I think about it for a moment, it is a little bit weird. But again, I don't watch a lot of live streams. And some people are very focused. I'm attentive, and I have ADHD, so I can think about what's on my mind and be noticing the screen. And the viewers are important to me, you know. More than the views, though, are the people that are engaging. Likes are nice and that, but comments are even better. And basically, and so, you know, it's not that I'm begging for them either, it's just I'm acknowledging that, you know, let's converse. So basically, as the viewer goes, I think before I said let's converse. But anywho, I guess we won't. But yeah, so basically, just really quickly, so, and the comments that show up after this is live should still be there. And any that come in during, I'll try and adjust them during. That way they are addressed. Some of the ones yesterday, though, again, not that it was anything personal towards me, which is, you know, I'm thankful about. And the viewer was there for a few seconds. Oh, somebody came back or came in. But and I think it's interesting. Part of me wishes I hadn't, though, because, I don't know, there were some interesting ones to address. But I'm curious what you think of the title before I elaborate much on it. Although I've kind of shared some of the things, you know, current circumstances, things that have happened this week, things that are hopefully happening soon as we have a second one. And I'm just gonna put the dog outside. And the only thing I can think of, that reason that he does this, and it's almost 2:00. The nearby school is going to be letting out soon. You'll notice when I let him out, he goes a little wild sometimes, and I think it's because he is like, come out and play with me. But it's very cold out, and I don't really want to. So, and I'm doing this, but so at the moment, no. But yeah, so basically, curious what you think about the title, and now that I've shared the stuff I have shared, or mentioned the stuff I have mentioned, I'm going to mention where the title comes in. And I don't remember it exactly how I wrote it, but I don't have a lot, and this is actually where I was standing when I finished the call that I was in. I don't have a lot of family living, local, connected, and I mostly have acquaintances at different points in my life. As you went, different points in my life, it's been different, and I think maybe a lot of people, I know a lot of people go through that. Some don't, but I do think it's part of the human condition. I think that people, as people, everybody's different. Some people will have different privileges or different abilities, and blessings, and more than some in some cases, and they. But I think if somebody lives a long, full life, they are bound to. There are some things that some people would do without thinking, and other people would never do. Would never do. It's true, but I think for the most part, most people experience the same things as much as they also experience very different things, if that makes sense. And so, um, um, one thing that I should preface at this point, if you've watched this far, you're welcome to put a comment thus far. I don't want things to be awkward. Like I put the setting to not for kids. That being said, well, sometimes I never really know exactly what's all gonna come up in a video. So I just have to go into a darker room for a moment here. Um, but, and basically, but with this one, I kind of feel like I do in the little bit of thought that I put into it. And so I can say that, just a moment, viewer. Okay, just a moment. Thank you. Sorry. As soon as you come here, I'm just quickly doing something in this room here. And the viewer's gone. Okay. I'm gonna do something with this one, but not on camera. I'll be right back though. I've been up here a lot. I don't know if there's anything I really strongly need to do in this room. There's a part of me that feels I do though. I don't really. I can put those damn slippers. Yeah. Get back down for the dog in a moment. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know what it was, the basil, the cilantro, whatever it was, I think. But, so, one other thing, I'm sorry. I'm just going to do one other thing quickly because of what I was just mentioning when you think of it. Don't think I hear him barking at the moment, so we have a viewer. Welcome. So yeah, I'm curious what you think of the title, and I'm going to talk about it now because I've kind of done the pre stuff. I'm also sort of wanting to multitask on the computer, so just quickly, I just want to check a couple quick things, and then I'll kind of be looking more directly at the camera again. In fact, I've already checked one of them. Now I'll check the other one. And then, yeah. Okay. So basically, this is just chapstick. Basically, this is just chapstick, and it is. You can. Some of the peel has been ripped off, but you can see. If you thought it was anything else, and even if you did, kind of like so what, right? Anywho, so yes, I was saying, and the whole topic of people experiencing mostly the same things, but also very different, and such, that's a topic. You know, if you have thoughts on it, feel free to put them in the comments, and maybe we can talk about it at a different time. But yes, I have a volunteer opportunity that'll be ongoing, and then I have a thing in mid-February, and I'm really looking forward to it. And also just in general, what I already have and what's already good, and just in general, that Michelle lady, I don't know if I'd ever said I was going to talk to her, but she interrupts a lot, and I probably won't. But yeah, so I mentioned that stuff about connection. I'm just going to go downstairs. I don't want to be bouncing for the camera or moving too much, so mine is not necessarily not moving, I suppose. So, but yeah, so get someone from the stairs here. So I'm just going back to the couch to sit down, and I'm also going to let the dog in, and then I'll continue what I was saying here, which, you know, even though you're just tuning in now, you haven't missed a lot, even though we're 26 minutes in, but kind of, sort of. Basically, just kind of getting to what the title says. Come on, Sonny. Thank you. Just letting our dog in. So, and I'll stop moving right about now. Well, moving so much. And as soon as I sit down, the viewer goes. They came when I came to the bottom of the stairs, and then they were gone. So as if they went out the door. Anywho, but like I say, there can be people that watch afterwards. So anyway, this is Winterwear, and yeah, big as big. It is, isn't it? But so I never mean to. I'm just acknowledging, and if people are happy with that, that's fine. I'm never saying names, because until you comment, I'm not seeing them anyway. But you're very welcome to comment or just listen. Commenters get more bonus points, though. Yeah, a bit of snow on your nose, Sonny. Anywho, but the dog's kind of looking at me. He came in, he's like, but I think he's going to lay on the couch and rest in a moment, because he's been outside for a little while. He's had a chew stick, so he should be good. But yeah, so basically, this morning started in a very interesting way, and then some things have been unfolding, and it's not necessarily been bad things, and it's actually been steps to putting something in place, and happy about that. But, so it's those two things, and like I say, kind of just in general, where maybe I'll post it to the group. I mean, sometimes it's iffy about links, but I could say I can message it to somebody, because I'm in a couple of groups kind of connected to this topic, but there can be a lot of spam or, like, I don't know, fake accounts, whatever. But basically, and we hadn't been talking that long. Some give more time, but my order my delivery had arrived for food, and even though she said she wasn't uncomfortable, maybe she just was maybe she was just saying so, but I started to get briefly into the topic of faith, and said that, you know, it's hard to hold faith sometimes, and I said that I'm both not strongly religious, but I'm not religious, if that makes sense. And she said, well, you know what, that's a whole other topic, and, you know, I do have to let you go soon, and you know, you can talk about that in another call, or next time you call. And part of me thinks, well, that was good, because I'm not to toot my own bugle, as I say the phrase, but I'm a pretty good person. And it's unfortunate when you, okay, it's being good, when you have to do certain volunteer roles or whatever, record checks and that. But I've made some small mistakes in my life, or done some things that maybe wish I'd done differently, but I've not, and I've unfortunately had a lot of struggle, but I've It's not been the worst, but it's not been pleasant. And some of it's been too much, in my opinion. But at the same time, I've also had a lot of great, things in life, especially in my childhood. And my teenage years weren't bad. In my 20s, and like I say, I do have some blessings in my 30s, which I'm in now. But yeah, basically, good boy, Sonny. Basically, I so yeah, I called this channel is about mutually supporting each other. Not that anybody's watching at the moment, and I called a support line, essentially a talk line, help line, whatever we call it. And if Joseph's watching at any point in time, if he's gotten this far in, but he probably hasn't, because 30 minutes in, I don't know if you knew that I called one for you once because I was worried about you, and there's a part of me that's still holding on to that connection, even though I've disconnected from it. I didn't want to do that, but that's kind of how it played out. But anywho, basically, because it's somebody that's subscribed to this channel that I know of, that I've had some interactions with. But basically, yeah. But life has been a lot of being, and we started to make some good progress in that conversation. But again, she interrupted a lot. She, or kind of, she, but then also didn't, kind of. I don't know. I said some things, and that was kind of one example, and she could have heard me out. But again, if she's not really, but you know what? If she's not a diverse person, she shouldn't be working that line, because every now and then you're going to get somebody who's a bit religious, not necessarily saying you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And on the same token, a religious person shouldn't necessarily work those lines unless they're a diverse and accepting person, because yeah. But anywho, so basically, I feel like I'm too far away if I sit back here. Um, so, but basically, so yeah, and there was something else that happened this morning I haven't mentioned, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. But, yeah, I'm a very good person, and again, not to toot my own bugle, but saying it as it is, and, I don't think that I do any really heavy sins. As we get when we tune in, and the only one at the moment. And I don't want to overdo this topic, but I do want to talk about it. Would love to hear your opinions. So basically, and it's hard for me to even say it out loud because I don't fully feel like it's a sin. I don't. But one of the ones that I struggle with, and I've been noticing lately, the past maybe year and a half, my feelings about it have kind of taken on, not because I at some different points in life have went to church. In fact, if you're Canadian, and the viewer left at that point, but they were here for about 2 or 3 minutes. If you're Canadian, I actually at one point in time went to church with someone who was famous, some of their family members. Anywho, point of the matter is that, and I do and don't think it's religion. I also look at it as, I've had some things that I've wanted to, do in my life, and either they start off good and they fall apart, or they never really transpire at all in a lot of cases. Not all, but more than I'd like to, more than I would like. And basically, so the part of the title was kind of alluding to this. We have nobody watching at the moment, but basically, lusting or doing certain adult activities, which reminds me of how this morning started. But looked at my phone, saw something, a post in an online group the question was, and here's one for you: what do you do to escape that is not alcohol or drugs? And one person said, and this is where I like to say, even though, youth these days with the media and their friends or whatever, they know a lot more than I think. It's not a matter of shielding kids or youth from things because that's not always going to be possible, and there's always going to be people in the world, you know, perhaps like myself even, that aren't really around them very often. So we're not really, so lack of a different phrase, trying to be all that careful. And some people aren't very aware either. So we're out in public, they may be around kids and they're not fully, especially if they're not being unruly kids, they're not fully processing it, and they might be talking to somebody, and maybe there's someone who likes to say the F word a lot or whatever it is. I mean, like we can't shield them. I think we can just, in my opinion, we can just kind of do our best to raise them well and to explain things to them so that they understand them in a logical way when the need arises. So, like in my 40s and 50s, maybe I'll get, you know, and but but yeah. So basically, so part of me says, not there's anybody watching at the moment, but part of me says that this isn't for kids, and part of me says, I mean, I can't control it entirely either. But I know that there are people that have videos of this online, and I know that they are just trying to express themselves, possibly help people, possibly receive some support. And so all of the above for me. And so basically about this and in general. So basically, the it's amazing how fast time can fly. It doesn't feel like it's been 36 minutes. But so there are some potentially good things coming up. There's always the unknown either way. And there are the things I already have. And I don't want to risk things. But at the same time, when I'm bored or when I'm feeling isolated at times, or when is feeling relaxed, or suggest something feels like it's been suggested to you or whatever, and it's so easy to access. There is the whole thought of, I'm just noticing that on there now. Adult content. Now, some of my thoughts are that you can usually tell when it's unkosher. By that I mean, like, well, bad. I mean, I don't want to get any uncomfortable comments, but I think most people would know what I mean. Most people that indulge in such a thing, I guess they're soft and hard versions, of things. And, that was a bit, but just enough, and, like, I know there's one site, it's very popular, and I land on it sometimes. And I don't know if it's true or it's just how things are titled. Unfortunately, it is stuff that some people are into. And I don't think it's right. And it starts with an I, if you know what I'm saying. We just had someone tune in, so you might feel like you're not following, but that's okay. You can follow from this point, and welcome. So basically, yeah, so I, like a lot of humans, am prone to viewing certain types of content sometimes, right? And lately, it's like I try to avoid it, but I rarely succeed as we get a second viewer. And lately, it's kind of like, I let me just click this because I realized the other day that I had to click the screen to see comments. Make sure I haven't. Sorry for the crazy hair. I just took a hat off. Hats off to you, eh? 2-1. Okay, so yeah, I feel like I feel wrong. And even with pictures, sometimes it's pictures, and it's not necessarily that it's really all that bad, but it's that kind of content. And then it starts to affect your thinking, right? And so I'm kind of glad, as it went two for a moment and then they went, I'm kind of glad that that phone call that I made with somebody in the support line, because like I say, I'm a fairly good person. I really don't think I do, and sometimes I don't do well, but or sometimes just nothing one way or another much these days. But so when I was bringing up faith, keeping faith, having faith, that's one topic. But then also I guess it would have been awkward. I feel like it would have been, but for some reason on YouTube, maybe because there's more, it's not just one person, so some people may may be okay talking about it. And I think that they shouldn't be embarrassed to. I mean, honestly, even though some people would rather think, 18 and up, honestly, anybody that's, and I'm a late bloomer, an old soul, but I would say anybody, and I lost my dad at 11, so years of age. So I mean, all those reasons, these kind of things weren't in my mind at the time. And you could say I lived a rather sheltered life growing up, somewhat, sort of. And I don't even like in my community in my high school rather, which wasn't a huge school, but it wasn't small either. And it was, people that came to that school came from other towns nearby, and and it was in small town Ontario. If anybody's familiar with Windsor area, and so there's a lot of small towns around there, right? And I had no knowledge of a GLBT community, for instance, in my high school. And even of my own feelings. Like I did and I didn't. And when you look back, it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay. And I'm not pinning myself one way or another here. Please understand that. But I am saying that, like, yeah, it's kind of like I had no knowledge of, and this has been unplugged for a while, but 52% of that, I feel like until after high school. Like there wasn't GSAs, as we get a second viewer, there didn't seem to be a click, whatever the word is, for that. In fact, one of, I suppose his former classmates has that as a last name, I think. And that doesn't relate to this stuff really, but basically I'm just saying that, you know, in general, like I was focused on, I had some extracurriculars, I had shop classes and some academics obviously, and I watched a lot of TV. Again, I'm not going to say as a teenager that, I wasn't experiencing normal teenager stuff, but in a lot of ways, no, I think I was kind of flat, numb to it, whatever. Um, Now, not so much so. So, so I guess I missed kind of that part in my youth a little bit. But no, just in general. I mean, but now, like I say, now I do know of it, and I find myself um, looking at this stuff sometimes, which part of me feels like I'm being so brave to put this here, and part of me thinks, yeah, but you know what? It's a normal human thing, and I'm an adult, and it's all kinds of stuff on the internet. And again, the purpose of this is to give help, receive help, educate, whatever. You know, those are pretty much the things there. So, um, unfortunately, we've had a few people viewing. I don't know if it's been the same people coming in more than once, but we haven't had a lot of interaction, which is unfortunate, but um, maybe it'll still come. If not, I'm getting it off my chest and getting some lotion off my hat, which, like very great there. But, and I'm, it's like, I should have had that stuff. You know, yeah. So basically, um, after viewing such things, and like I say, I do try, and even if and actually I've never been so scarred or traumatized, and this is not the intent of this either, you know, But in looking up certain stuff, I almost have been maybe a couple times that I avoid it. But I haven't been able to figure out how to change that. Whoops. Hello?
Oh, hi, I'm calling from...
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys already spoke to him. You guys were supposed to come in the evening. I didn't know who was at the door, so I didn't answer it earlier. And as far as we know, they're just coming back tonight. Okay, thanks. Bye. So yeah, as we get a viewer, I don't know why they were calling, but anyway, so basically, but what I said was like, okay, that's good enough. But basically, gave her the needed information, the needed update. But yeah, so then I find myself, sometimes I'll feel it right before or after, thinking, oh, is this going to bring the opposite luck than what I want, or than what I feel I deserve? And part of me thinks no. And I have various feelings, like I say. I'm otherwise a very good person. It's pretty low level stuff. I just, had to get this off my chest and hopefully have a bit of a conversation about it. The dog didn't get too worked up this, that's good. With the phone or, yeah. I could do something, not that this may not already be interesting, but I could do something very interesting in this video, and we have somebody still watching. I was too. I welcome you to stay, because this is a lot of this, but especially this is something that I really feel affects everybody. And if it doesn't affect you now, it might affect you down the road. And they left. They're like, no, it doesn't affect me. And nothing affects me. but then it says two suddenly together. Basically, but I almost feel like it's worth sharing, because it's something that I've experienced recently. Now, whether you have, it's kind of been flickering between 1 and 2 a little bit here, whether you have ever had and I know I had a video kind of titled about something like this recently. It's not going to come across that way, though, if you happen to see it. Unless you have had an out-of-body experience or felt something from communication from a loved one or an angel, and those kind of things, one can't say that it's not real. Some people do it only for themselves. What's the harm in that if it brings them benefit, if it brings them, like for their own healing and their and some people try and do it for others. And if they're legit, again, what's the harm in that as far as I'm concerned? So, but basically, and so I won't say that I am necessarily hugely versed in this, but I have had some of those kind of experiences. Suddenly we have 4 people watching. Bring people, what's going on? Or is it just kind of, and I've had various experiences with that. In fact, this morning I woke up, and then I'll forego. It's really weird. I woke up and I started to explain it, and then I kind of veered from it. But basically, and this it isn't connected to the previous topic there, but I saw somebody that reminded me of someone's son that I know of, and she passed away of cancer, and he wouldn't be more than 19, 20 maybe, and people can lie about their age online or whatever. I know he's not. I and I know it's him because his grandmother's in his list. Well, the look-alike, no, but and the one that I found looked oddly more like him when he was younger because he had blonder hair then. But I decided to look up his name, and it's kind of common, but I plugged in the city, and I found him on Facebook. And he had a post in December. He doesn't have a lot. It's like he just joined recently, and he might have at his age. A lot of some younger people are on there, but if he did in fact wait until he was 18 or 19, then yeah, he may have just recently joined. And I've wondered, he has a kind of unique name. I don't think I've seen more than one spelling for the first name before. The last name's very common. In fact, our neighbors have it, I believe. Uh, but I'm kind of wanting to verify his age first before I send. So I'm looking through his small contact list of about 50 people to see if there's anybody I might know and might want to reach out to about that. But his mother was in my life, and she was a very special person when I was a youth, actually, to me. And like I say, she died. She passed away, and her kids were still quite young. I mean, she was only in her 40s. She also was a teacher, so she had a lot of kids that way too, and nieces and nephews and all that, right? For instance, if I will. We have somebody viewing, and I don't know if you were previously here or not, but I'll share. It started with my dad, but I will share an example of this particular contact, who, and it's been a while. It's been a while. I'm thinking of Jeff now, which was not necessarily luck, but basically, but one kind of was, two kind of were, and I've been thinking about one a bit lately. But basically, as we have no viewer at the moment, and the thing is that people could say, "Oh, they're disguised. They're not actually your loved ones or your angels." But honestly, first of all, it's not even honest because that would be more constant. It would be more aggressive. Blah blah. Second of all, sometimes I'll experience something like that and be like, "Yeah, that sounded a lot like them." And she had a daughter that was into pageant, beauty pageants, essentially, and a son that played a lot of sports, or at least baseball. And she had shared with me this the way that I was alluding to earlier, that she wanted her kids to know that it's not just about winning. You're not always going to win. About healthy competition. Um, um, she actually said that there was a boy that that was one of the few males in the pageanting stuff that you know and how they accepted him and all this and that. But if the person who just tuned in, the only one here at the moment, was her earlier, and and they've left. But anyway, why I kind of mention this, other than to mention it, is because I I have a friend, more of an acquaintance really, um, that passed away of an overdose. Now I just never thought to ask. I knew that they'd passed away. I you know and I do sometimes feel spirit or angel leads browsing, makes browsing happen. It's like they're trying to get you some info, and that's the way people get info by going on the internet and browsing, right? So, and I remember when I found out how. He says, "You weren't supposed to know. I didn't want you to know." And I wasn't even all that close to them, but it's sad, right? It's a hard way to die, right? And I had something, and I think I had known about it like years before, but again, I wasn't super close with them. Then it kind of came into my memory again for whatever reason. And that particular time, I started to write a book. And the problem has been that there hasn't been a beginning. Well, there's been a beginning, obviously. I'd been thinking, I thought of that a few times before I finally, and I'm usually pretty quick and to figure things out. Before I realized, well, there was a beginning. I guess you could say there's a middle. What there isn't, as clearly defined of, is an end to the story that I'm working on. It's mostly scenes. But from very first scene in my book, which isn't published yet, but I felt like he made himself a character. And actually really creepy, or I don't know what you want to say, but I used AI. I'd have to look back. I took photos of it, thankfully, because I don't use that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it'd be hard to find otherwise. But I used AI image generator, told it some stuff okay, thought there was like there, told it some stuff, and then it sent me some results. One of them, not that he had a super unique look, but still, one of them looked a lot like JP. It was wild. Um, Anywho, and I felt like it became, and again, if you have opinions about it, let's talk about it. Let's try and respect each other. It's a two from up there, but it became kind of supernatural, in a way. Not 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 in bad ways, though. I would say, and like I said, I felt him very present. I worked on it for like a couple of weeks. I even went to a library computer and was, you know, typing something up, printing something up to have copies of it. I actually recently found it in either that photo book I made with Leanne, who I was previously mentioning, or in a music book, and as well as a play I'd worked on. And but yeah, so he hasn't been super actively, to my knowledge anyway, around lately. There have been a couple times where I've said not up to it, kind of thing. But or sometimes in writing, like not necessarily the project, but just in a conversation I'm writing, and then suddenly I feeling, you know. But there was one time, and again, I don't. We have a viewer. I'm curious before I kind of share this. There's a part of me that's saying, check how old is our viewer right now before I share this. I mean, or they just left. They're like, never mind, I just won't watch. Okay, fine. But I'm pre whatchamacalliting this next part with that. And after I take a sip of water. And basically, oh yes, I have to get a grocery delivery at some point too. Now, sometimes it's just me, and maybe what I'm seeing on the internet, right, that suggests me to do it. But a lot of times, but there have been, I think of Dylan a little bit, that have kind of nudged me. And in fact, there was somebody in a group online that asked if anybody had ever had this experience, and I think they hearted my comment. But we haven't really gotten too much of a conversation about it yet, but that was fairly recently. And because of, as we get a second view, first of all, because of other experiences I've had too, not just connected to this friend JP, but because of other experiences that I've had, including the very first one with my dad, that felt so real and so comforting and so healing, as the viewer goes, I believe this stuff. I've only been wrong. I don't mean to toot my own bugle, but again, I mostly do this for myself, so I know that I'm, getting they're nice messages. It's not really a matter of right or wrong necessarily. There was one time a couple times actually, that I've been wrong. I'll admit it, but maybe that person almost died or was in some sort of coma. Truth be told, one of them wasn't that. Two of them had health problems. So, but then some people can be pretty healthy and then suddenly not. And I don't know what's going on with my health right now. But, and part of me feels ambivalent, and part of me wants to know, especially with some upcoming potentially good things. But I do remember one time he said, or maybe even twice actually, and somebody else recently actually, who was actually on a famous TV show. Well, it was a show where a lot of people on it are just on that show. And once, like, and they somehow summarize a week worth of content into like an hour show, episode. But, and there have been one or two people, one I can think of, who were on 2 episodes though. Like 2, should I say what it is? Maybe that'll help make sense. Trading spouses. Which is really trading family for a week. Get to live like somebody else's life for a while. I think most of us, even if we like our life, might be kind of wanting to do that sometimes. I mean, some of the people that have been on that show have mansions. Like, what do they need? You want to upkeep their mansion and whatever else. We don't know, right? Like Rip Pepper, she had some health problems. Now they seem to develop, and it might be similar to what I'm going through actually. They seem to develop kind of, maybe I'll show this together there, at least from a certain section, uh, kind of later, like, I can't say exactly the time frame between when she was on the show to when she got it and then died, but um, I would say that that definitely there was a yeah, basically. Um, so anywho, but one of the ones who was on it, him and his wife, ex-wife now, um, were quite famous in some ways. Like they had a popular radio show. I can't remember in what town or what I think California. I think I know that would make a lot of sense, right? But some not necessarily. She did hypnotherapy. Um, uh, Now she does some other things too that are kind of interesting. Um, and he was, big into astrology and this and that. And recently he was I felt like he was trying to tell me there's and it's not I can tell the difference most of the time. And it's not that I was trying to tell myself this, but I certainly didn't argue it either. It's true. It's kind of like he was telling me, you know what you like, and appreciate that, accept that, essentially. And, or, again, this was just a few days ago, but essentially saying, I'm not wrong for it, you know, and that kind of stuff. And even kind of, I feel, precipitated some searches. Or like this JP guy, I feel like he was encouraged, not only encouraging it, but like I said, I'd had visits that seemed very real. We also were working on that project a little bit together. And, I wish I'd known him better in person. I really wish I had, or knew people that did, but really mostly I didn't, to my knowledge. But I tell you, he really showed his personality. Just a goofball, you know, very kind, but just a goofball, which maybe doesn't sound that unique, but some of the things he was saying, his sense of humor, I would say was, I would say that it kind of, I don't want to say caught me off guard, but it kind of did. But this one particular time, or two particular times maybe, I feel like one of the things he was saying was that and I think it's comforting to believe in an afterlife. I do. And that we will see our loved ones again someday, and that it's much better than, Earth is a lot of times, even though Earth can be great. And, you know, it's a little bit something to grapple with the fact, oh, but, they're sad because they're missing us and they're seeing us struggle. So is it really that much better? What I've learned is that, and if you'd like a session, I'm quite available to do them these days, although that might be changing soon. But I, what I've learned is that, and not at first, I feel like actually fairly recently this as well. The feelings that they feel, it's not that they don't feel. And I tell you, sometimes the things they express, they're feeling. They're feeling our pain. They're feeling, you know. Um, but yet there is something. It's almost as if somebody keeps coming in just to see if I'm still rolling. It's like, oh yeah, okay, still here. I'll come back later. It's weird. I don't know. There is something more. My eyes look really tired. I guess I kind of am, but more flat about it, about their feelings. Not that they aren't loving and this and that, and not that they don't feel, but there's something more, less intense than sometimes people might feel. I think that's what it is. And yeah, I don't like the way my eyelids are looking in this video for some weird reason, so I'm not going to hold it so close. And I'm going to wrap up soon anyway and do other things, like possibly look into this relative of this loved one that or this contact. And, I think she was supporting it. That's something I feel like she did tell me this morning. That and there was something I can't remember. Glenn was at the door doing something in his share channel, and said something, and we said, well, as long as it's not like it was Drain, and like she tried to raise him well, for as long as she could in her life before she passed away, and that you know that she hopes the best for the connection if I decide to make it. She even kind of joked a little bit about a word that she used to like to use at me sometimes. But that's an example of where things. This is where I'm not entirely sure. There's a part of me that thinks it's myself. There's a part of me that thinks it's her, or both. That is saying things like, "I still feel those things, but less strong." Like I still feel like sometimes you're a certain way, but I'm more okay with it. Like I'm more neutral about it, kind of thing. Um, but and in fact, there's a part of me that wants to, because it may be emotional, and if it is, I don't know. Maybe some of these people that come in briefly will be like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And if not, then they're idiots, they're jerks, and they can like not follow our channel, But, but anyway, but to finish what I was saying there, I feel like he once said, "There's nobody viewing at the moment. Maybe that's for the best." And again, I'm trying to be kosher and gentle with what I'm sharing here, but I do feel like he once said, he was a bit promiscuous in his life. Aside from, and the addictions may not have even been something he battled with for very long, really. It may have even been accidental. I can't remember if I read something about that. But he was also very promiscuous. Some people would say, oh, it goes with the lifestyle. Yes and no. It depends on the person. I don't think he either, other than possibly going down some dark paths a little bit and not knowing him very well, I don't think that he also like did broke laws, was illegal or anything like that. But like I say, promiscuous would be the word, and I feel like he once said, "I made it," if you know what I mean by that. And he was a bit more. I mean, he could have said it that way, and I would have known what he meant. But he was a bit less vague, for lack of a different word. And he says, "I'm fine," and the kind of life I lived, and I felt like that was very reassuring, very validating. So as awkward as this all is, it's also the base topic here or whatever is a very human thing, and when we want to talk about how it might affect certain outcomes or luck or this or that. I've also had them tell me sometimes, as far as this is concerned, it's weird to think of loved ones sometimes thinking of you in certain ways, and I don't mean to give the impression that they do. They're pretty good about privacy in that way. But depends on your connection, the type of connection that you had. Like this one guy I'm talking about, although we were mostly acquaintances, we're both young, both can be a little bit silly and wild sometimes, and yeah, just very open personality. The other guy, I didn't know that well. Like I say, he was on a show. We did have some online contact. And I think he had a brain tumor was how he passed away. But, he says, yeah, basically, yeah, so basically, I thought, well, that's true. Well, then this is nothing, doing this a little bit is nothing compared. And that's something else I tell myself. There are worse things I could do. Truly, and but then sometimes I don't get the best of luck as we get a viewer tune in, and it's kind of like I don't know what else to associate it to. Really, I don't know where that. I just heard that phone make a noise, and I don't know where it is though. That's bizarre. Oh well. Anyway, and like actually Chris recently said, even if you feel that those things are connected to each other, not necessarily. Like, essentially stop telling myself that. And what I'd like to know, and I don't know if the person who's here right now was here earlier and has an idea of what we're talking about, but I guess I'd like an opinion as to whether you think that that affects certain things. People have different feelings about what type of things, doing those kind of things affect. Whether it's just your overall health, but some people say it's a good thing to do for your health. I honestly feel like most of the people that are against it are religious people. Are religious people, and I don't mean to be hating on them. Okay, I need to find that phone before. Oh dear. Before. What I keep hearing beep. And I know I saw it recently, and I thought I put it on the table. But yeah, I don't know where it is, but I just keep hearing the phone, the cordless phone beep. But yeah, and I'm not going to say that, religious people aren't entitled to, obviously, people are going to believe what they believe. But I do kind of feel like, I don't know. And I'd like to say, I wasn't raised strongly religious. I'm not, I have a bit of a faith there, and I also think it's honestly more so, though, that, in my 30s have been especially hard. And even though I'm still in them for a couple more years, I want things to go smoother. I want things to be more successful. And, those from it now. And I do kind of worry that, why is this over here? I thought he put one here and put one somewhere else. Like, I don't want to confuse the two. Yeah. At the same time, yeah, like I say, all these other things kind of come to mind. And it's kind of like, oh, it's fine then. It's fine then. And sometimes it also feels like a bit of a test, if that makes sense. But, like last night, it was just pictures, for instance. Or yesterday, last night, whatever. I let it get to 17 new posts in this one group. That's just a people photo group, pretty much. And, in fact, maybe even into the 20s. And lately I've been seeing a lot of them say 25 plus new posts. I hadn't used to seeing that. It would just say like a preview of the most recent post or like who posted it or whatever. But, yeah, it's kind of like... And then some good stuff has transpired today, continuing from stuff I've done other days, to steps or whatever, and something that I didn't know about. And actually that right there, I actually kind of feel validates it as well. It's kind of like, although, who knows, I suppose, but it's kind of like, well, or maybe I was being forgiven. Like, see, this is the thing. Or does it even matter? I think the world is huge. God probably exists, but I don't think he's almighty. And I don't think that anyone should expect him to be, and I don't want to offend people or whatever, but I also kind of feel like, I don't think that people should put too much into, him being in your life as closely as a lot of people think. Sure, he might be like any of our loved ones, although maybe them stronger, that have passed away, might be there in very small flickers or whatever, but the world is a huge place. And obviously there's chaos in a lot of it, whether you want to believe in the opposite of God, which makes sense if you believe in the God that's causing it, and or God's falling short. But, I mean, I do believe that, and partly it's the ability, partly it's believing in a creator, a creation, and that something, even if a lot of it these days is, or a lot of it in general, is done by man, that initially, and even as being done by man, or a human, there's a part of God at work in it. I do feel that. But do I feel like he's watching our every move? I do feel that sometimes angels are loved ones. I don't about not in general. I never actually thought about that. No wonder, because of course the more that I watch it, the more I could get around to. But Our own? No, they give us privacy about certain things like that, or like or whatever, In fact, a lot of times, occasionally when Majim and I said, they're outside. They're outside the hall. Um, what was it? My dad's dad. I can't remember. There was a deep. Oh right, Holly, my cousin. I was in the bath, and she was okay communicating to me. And I sensed if she wasn't in the room, she was at the doorway with the door, and like almost like kind of like dipping in and out of the room maybe. But the dad said, I was doing in one room and didn't have much on. Says I'm not going in that room. I'm not going beyond that door, and I'm staying out here in the hall. But sometimes I won't verbalize it, but that doesn't mean that this is not the case. But yeah, so as far as um, like I say, it depends on the type of connection you had, though. And I think that most people, most adults, humans, would be okay with that. Like, oh, it's just my bro, or just like not sibling brother. I don't think it's right if it's your actual bro, but or it's a former partner, or maybe even exes. Sometimes, whatever it is, where it's not as awkward. Sure, then maybe, but otherwise, they wouldn't want to be around for that. Not judging you for it. They just wouldn't want to be there for it. And like I said, I do feel like God's too busy to be concerned with every single person that's doing that when there are bigger issues in the world. Whether he's, it's like politics. Some things are easier than other things within it, and it depends on the politician, and I don't have to get hugely deep into that. And sorry if a viewer's American or affected by Trump. I mean, I'm definitely not a Trump supporter, but basically, and then they leave. But like it's a hard job in some ways, but a lot of them are really just not great at it. And it's the same with God, in some ways. It's a hard job, but in some ways he could do better for a lot of people. He really could. But I mean, that kind of stuff is so enjoyed and so pleasurable by people, not just people, but that the world is huge. It's funny. I actually sang to somebody involved in this opportunity that I'm hoping to get soon. I sang a bit of It's a Small World. Earlier this morning, I sang a song Glennon never heard it because he's a bit older. Monkeys jumping on the bed, and the doctor said. And that was not entirely thinking about how I had to make the doctor's appointment. I can't remember why it was, because I hadn't looked at a monkey. I did recently see a video of someone who had a pet as a monkey, and we've been watching, although he kind of was weird to one dog, let him in pet tricks and people tricks. He was going in circles with this one dog, and the dog was so calm and gentle, and I just thought he was treating it weird. But yeah, I don't know why that song came to mind earlier as we get here, but it did, and yeah, but it's a huge world, and yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing to do, and I think some of it is okay and is fine, and sometimes there's gray area, or sometimes it's kind of like you see the other stuff on the way too. But there's part of me that's not embarrassed to talk about this because, again, it is human. There's a small part of me that's embarrassed to have the struggle. There's a part of me that thinks, why do I let myself struggle with it? Like it's fine. It really is. And a lot of people that say they aren't doing those kind of things are probably lying. I mean, maybe they just don't want to talk about it. So, and I need to be kind to myself if I find myself, doing that kind of thing, kind of stuff. I think I just found the phone underneath the blanket here. Yeah. And to realize that maybe there is no connection. Sometimes I do go looking, and sometimes it just kind of happens, But as the dog sits there stretching, don't say the oddly. Maybe yes and no, but but maybe there's no connection. Maybe I need to. Oh wow. Now, And I was wondering, and this is the thing with this ability, this is the thing. It's really best if it's organic. You can't make it happen. But there is somebody that actually is coming to mind at the moment, and I connect to him to a thing that I've been through in my life, which was kind of hard. And basically, he was a deacon at a church, and you know, this is just all happening very organically, like I say, very naturally. I, you know, of all people, right? But I'm happy that it is, and I'm very curious. Although, like I say, my mind is making associations that are a little bit uncomfortable as far as connecting him to someone else that I knew, connected to a situation that didn't work out, and that's what I could just say, like, what, two, which has already been there. So maybe this is double out, unless we count two of them, and then that. Anyway, he's telling me, with my telepathy, this is what I'm picking up. He says, "I'm so hard. You're so hard on yourself," and I'll actually not put it in paraphrase it as if it's only to me. It could be to any of us. And he says, "Yes, I aim to help people, and whether I know them closely or not, and I've met you in my life, and I think you're a great guy, Corey." And he says that, and nobody's watching about it. It says, has it been? He wants to touch on the fact that I said that some people lie and say that they don't do it. He says, I don't fully agree with that, and this is interesting. He says, I don't want to get too personal, but he says to me that, he says, some of us truly don't do it that often. Sure, this thing about we're all human. And he says, everybody's wired a little bit differently, aren't they? And he says, and this is where it's sounding kind of like him, not that I was super close with him, but, and he says, and I almost feel like Betty's almost dying, or already recently has. Anyway, he says, and by the way, I wish you success, I wish you good health. And he says, but some of us don't do it that often, and would not appreciate being called liars. I'm doing something. As we get a viewer that tunes in, take it, and hopefully it'll seem as real to you as it seems to me. Right now, I am channeling a deacon of a church I used to go to, and they left already. Like as soon as I said me, I think. Anyway, and he says, to being called liars. Although, I do think you're kind of right, he says. I do think you're kind of right, sir. He's called me sir for some reason. And he's saying, I do feel to say something, I do feel like most people have done those kind of things. I'm not just talking about like, and even that is not always a solo act, so to speak. But and that was so weird. Like I said, this is what you're doing, and then he's kind of flirting with people on his page. And I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of glad you brought it page in your mind. But isn't as much of a it's a everyone does do it, Corey. He says, you're right. Almost everyone, once they reach a certain age, if they have the developmental capacity to do so, will do that. You are right. But to a lot of us, it's not a big thing if we don't. It's not something we focus that much on, and a lot of us do have a lot more self-control than some people. And I don't want to downplay that, he says. Fair enough, right? But he says, if you want to know my opinion, you know that even though I was old school, old school, and religious, you know that I was an accepting person. I may come across to some people as if I was judging them when I would say, I'm going to pray for you, or whatever, if somebody came to me about that. And maybe slightly I was, he says. But I'm still going to show them love and mercy. And he says, and I'm not going to judge them, condemn them for doing something like you say is very natural as a human. I don't think our angels do it. Just in case anybody's wondering, not that anybody's watching. And he says, maybe I shouldn't show on the scale when I think about it being on here. But he says, and so I'm not going to do that for you. Now, since I passed, do I feel differently? You nailed it right on the head, he said. He says, the feelings are more neutral. So like my friend who said that thing, and sometimes, the wording you use is a little bit this way, when some people would not say that at all. That's not how they would define that word. He's saying it too. He's saying, but, being more neutral about it. And that's how this is coming across. And he's kind of saying, and he's also kind of saying, but in a way, as I'm also mentioning, and man, another almost 2-hour video, I was kind of like that in life too, though, like very neutral about it. But it's I'm not going to say I pray for you. I have kept my faith. I have met God briefly, he says, from time to time, in a closer way than I ever thought I would when I was on earth, which, believe me, felt very close sometimes, he says. But he says that even that is very kind of flat or neutral now. It's present still, but it's not as... And I didn't know him that well. He was going to say, you know me, I was never in your face with it. But like it's not as pronounced. Like he says, as an angel, he says, as one of God's angels and disciples in this way, he says, I wouldn't say it anymore. And it's not because I don't still have my faith. But he says, I wouldn't say, and it's not because I don't still care about the person. But he says, I wouldn't say, I pray for you. I show you mercy. Blah, blah, blah. Even though he knew that his heart was coming from a good place, and maybe some of you relate to some people that you knew in your life that this makes you think of. He says, I don't need to do it that way anymore. All I can tell you is that you're a great person, you are human, and you take with that all the things that come with being human, and you embrace your life. If you do something like what you've been talking about in this video, you move on. 128. And you hopefully have a very blessed life. And he says, okay, there, I used a religious word. Like I said, it's still a part of me. And there's a part of me that thought I inserted that because I felt like I should be hearing that. But no, it honestly really did feel like, just like the rest of this, or other experiences that I've had, it came from him. And he thanked me just now for that. As if I validated it for him. As if I validated that I can hear him communicating to my telepathy and that he's coming across. He also really wants to just quickly say that he's very sorry for what I went through at that agency, Connected Sean. He says, you aren't wrong. He did try and speak up for you. He didn't want to get in trouble in his new position. He didn't know what he should or shouldn't say. So yes, he was largely quiet. But he also didn't strongly agree with what was happening. And he never made it obvious that he was strongly agreeing with anybody. Even if you felt like he was against you, he says, Corey, you know that he tried to call you or you tried to call him twice. Well, he happened to be teaching a workshop. You didn't know that. He answered anyway because you matter. And he says, and I think he was going to call later too, but maybe he never did. I can't recall. But it was just so whatever. Like I may have just beat him to the punch, kind of thing. He says, I hope you can continue to move past that. You don't need to carry that anymore. Really what happened was not actually your fault. Right? And he says, you just have to keep looking ahead. There's not a car go down the lane there. Looking ahead at all the beauty of life that lies before you. And thank God. He says again, whether you're saying it or it's the things I'm, communicating to you that you're saying, because it's honestly a bit of both, but I can tell when it's, and hopefully you can too. He's kind of like, I never said I don't have my faith anymore. But what he is saying is that, again, it's not as strong. But stand in the sunshine, my friend. Soak it up. You deserve it. And you deserve a beautiful life. And you see the greatness that you do have in your life. And I'm neutral again. And sometimes Spirit and Angel are a lot more stronger, opinionated, but usually they are. They're caring, loving, they're fairly gentle. Sometimes it depends on the personality, but no, I mean basically, and I have to go watch it soon, but basically, yeah, just that he's saying that he knows I'm thankful. He knows I'm thankful for what I have. And he says that is so important. Because you should be. You should be. But he also understands how I want a bit more out of life. And he kind of just joked with me. Joked but not joked and said, what human doesn't? Whether we want to say more or just to have a great and fulfilling life, he said that's pretty much most people that he's observed in either lifetime, in either realm. If I may, not that there's anybody watching, sometimes I felt my dad do this. I can't say if I felt others that I'm connected to do it. But he is just wanting to have me pass blessings on to anybody who sees this video at this point, or just in general. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't want to hear it as a blessing, you can hear it as wish you well. Wish you well, yeah. I feel like that's a lyric, isn't it? I wish you well. Anyway. And yeah. So I had actually thought that I might, and some people may see this later at this point and say, this guy though, can't shut him up. I'm like anybody. Sometimes I'm reading, sometimes I'm sleeping, sometimes I'm just too tired. But yeah, I often do feel like it starts to shut me up, it's true. But I had honestly planned to sit quietly and see if I might be able to pick up on a loved one. And even though it does make sense when I think about it, who came through, it was so effortlessly done. I think it was lovely. We just had a viewer tune in, and I'll ask you this. I'm going to try and keep it under 2 hours. It's just over an hour and a half. Are you a viewer are you a viewer? Yes. No. That is willing to or interested in engaging back and forth a little bit. No, you left? Okay. Then I didn't want to wrap this up right as someone tuned in. Of course, I can always look later at the device, say different things depending on what device. But I didn't want to wrap this up as somebody was just tuning in. But now that they've not stayed, I'm going to wrap it up. So there you have it. Merry Christmas. Just kidding.